Robin Martin and I were just talking about the International Writers' Conference being held in Windsor in May. And joining me now on The Right Stuff is Pamela Goldstein, co-founder of the event. It's lovely to see you, Pam.
Oh, it's so nice to see you again. You're one of the prettiest people I know.
Oh, well, you can come back. Organizing a conference is not for the faint of heart.
Oh, definitely not. I've had so many nervous breakdowns, it's unbelievable.
So why did you and your colleagues decide not only on a writers' conference, but an international writers' conference?
Well, it started when I was about 40 years old and I was writing a book. And there was nobody I could turn to say, is this good? Or, what do you think? And I met W.O. Mitchell, who was writer-in-residence at the university. And he said, sweetie, go to a writers' conference. That's what they're there for. And so I went to one of the biggest ones, not knowing it was one of the biggest ones. I went to the San Diego Writers' Conference in California. And I met Michael Scott Gregory there, who runs that one in the LA and the Santa Barbara. He runs all of these, and he teaches at the university. And he goes, Canada, you're the first one from Canada. And I went, oh, God, I'm in so much trouble. And there were over 1,000 people there. And I just, like, what do you do? And so he introduced me to John Mayer, who's written over 90 books on military, actions and action thrillers and everything. And so, in his very stubborn way, stern way, he goes, why did you write this book? And I'm like, oh, I'm so not in the right place. And, and I explained to him, I like writing, I love the process and everything. Did you think you wrote the American novel? And I go, no. And he says, well, what are you going to do with this? I said, I don't know. I'm just writing it. So finally, he said, well, you can write. Of course, at that point, I'm a nervous wreck, and I burst into tears. Oh, do I know how to write? And he said, oh, you're not going to cry, are you? Yeah, I'm going to cry. And I came back from that, and I was talking to W.O. Mitchell, and I said, this was crazy. And he said, yeah, do you think maybe you could do better? And I went, yeah, I think I could do better. I'm going to make it friendly. It's not cutthroat, where you get to talk to people and say, what do you think? And the agent or publisher will say, it's not bad, but you could improve it this way. So it took me 30 years to get the courage, and then I finally put one together in 2014. And we had about 80 people attend, and everybody said the same thing, that it was fantastic, and that they didn't feel intimidated, that they felt inspired to go home and write. And 4 of those people got agents there, and another 6 or 7 have now self-published since then. They had the courage to do it, coming to the Writers' Conference.
So what were some of the things that you actually did at the conference? What could people take part in?
Well, the big hands-on is the pre-conference, and the only reason we call it the pre-conference is I have so many agents and publishers and editors who come that, you have to have it separate, because not everybody is at that level. The level for the Writers' Conference is beginner to professional. So these are the more serious writers who have actually written something, like Robin. And they sit down with these agents and publishers and 10 other people, and they get to read their first 5 pages to the crowd, and then everybody gives their input. And I mean, it's cool that they get to see that, but what they're also getting to see is how you react to criticism and what kind of input you can give to somebody else, and if you're a caring writer and if you're eager to learn the craft. And then they say, oh, I can work with this person.
Because that's such an important thing, being able to accept that criticism, because we all think that our words are so important and we're wedded to them, and to be able to actually take part in something like that, and even if you're not good with criticism, to start to understand the importance of it.
Exactly. And the biggest thing that I came away with was point of view and narrative. Like, it's the key. And so we have Kelly Forden coming from Detroit. She's won all sorts of awards, and she teaches it professionally. She's going to come and teach you about point of view and narrative and why that is so important. who knew? Yeah. You know. The other thing we do is I have Tara Began coming. Tara is a First Nation writer. She has won the Dora Award for her plays. She writes plays. And so she's going to come and she's going to talk about writing about divisive issues. And then afterwards, we're going to have a reading of her latest play called In Spirit that talks about the Indigenous women who have been kidnapped. And this is one of the girls who was killed, and how everybody reacts to it.
So it's a very all-encompassing conference in that it doesn't matter what you write. You can write plays or poetry, fiction, nonfiction, all the genres.
Yep.
And there will be somebody there for you to latch on to.
Exactly. And all the underlying part of it is that you're learning technique. Because as Professor Rick Sykes, he was voted the best professor of media communications in North America. And the reason why, he was also the former NBC producer of the daytime news kind of thing. But he breaks it down. Last year, he broke it down where if you say a sentence this way, if you change the A to that, you've changed the entire meaning of the story. Well, who would think that? But that's what these people teach you, is the specifics of it. How do you get your story into such a place that people go, oh, wow.
Now, is that what sets this conference apart from other conferences, that you actually get to have that very, it's a minutia of one-on-ones?
Yeah, there's that. We want to keep it down to around 350 people so that you can be sitting next to, say, John Mayer, but he's not coming, or Rick Sykes or Tara Beacon, and you get to meet with them one-on-one and hear how they actually really got around to doing it, but also getting the advice that you need. What makes us really unique is our mandate, which is that all people, any people in the world, have a right and an obligation to tell their stories. And that's what Writer's Digest, editors at Writer's Digest picked up on. And they said, yeah, nobody does that. Nobody is specific like that.
Now they're supporting this conference.
Yeah, they wrote a story on us because they said, because we're friendly, because we had such a high success rate, and it's labeled a boutique destination. And I went, really? I'm a boutique destination conference. But because we do focus on people fitting in and feeling like they can be inspired and they can do anything. We have 5 contests for people to enter.
Tell me about those.
The first one is your opening sentence. Because what we found out was agents and publishers, when they get a book, you only have the first sentence to catch them, and then it goes.
Yeah. It was a dark and stormy night.
Exactly, the most famous line. Then the other one we have is the first paragraph. And your first paragraph should be under 70 words. I didn't know that, but it's true. So first paragraph. And then, of course, the late Alistair MacLeod ended up being one of my great mentors, and I absolutely love that man. And
we should explain that
he is probably one of Canada's best writers, but he was the king of short stories. And that's what he's known around the world for, are his short stories. So, and he was a professor at the university. When he passed away, it just became natural that we would have an Alistair MacLeod Award for short stories. So we have that. And then because of Marty Gervais and his poetry and all of those amazing poets that we have in the city, it also became natural you had to have a poetry contest. Well, all 4 of those contest winners got free registration to all of the events at the conference this year. So it's pretty big.
And I was very fortunate to win one of the poetry contests.
Yeah, it was lovely.
And the best part of that was getting a big box of books written by Canadian authors.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you want, When you're writing, I mean, you sit there at your computer and you're going, oh, is this good? Am I the only person who's an idiot kind of thing doing this? But then you get to see all these people and you get to meet people and become friends with them. And in fact, 5 of the people who are speaking this year, they're famous international writers. Tracy Beckerman, that you see on CBS News all the time. Marcia Fine has won countless awards. And several others I met at writers' conferences over the years, and we've just stayed really good friends. So I needed a column writer, and I went, oh, my friend Tracy, who's now in 450 newspapers across the world. And Marcia, she writes these incredible stories about her past in the Holocaust and stuff like that. Great. And what she did, she was published by a professional publishing company, 3 of her books, and then she said, you know what, I'm going to bypass that and self-publish. So that's what she's going to talk about, how she did that.
Wow. I mean, that's extraordinary, because it's usually the other way around, that you publish a book yourself and then you get picked up by a publisher. And to have someone who is so well known to do the reverse, I think is going to be a very interesting thing for people to hear.
Yeah. And John Mayer, the guy I was telling you about at the beginning, he has also gone from being published. He's got over 80 books published by publishers, and now his other books are now being self-published because they have more control. Now that they know what the whole scheme of it is and how to do it, they want to have more control. Well, I'm not in that position. And so I'm still the traditionalist with an agent, you know, looking for people to buy, a publishing firm to buy my story. But if you're at the point where you're a success and everybody knows your name, James Patterson is another classic example. They bypass the middle people, but you got to be good at it.
And you have to know how to market.
Yeah.
And is there someone talking about marketing?
Yes. Tracy is talking about, Tracy Beckerman, the columnist, she is talking about branding yourself and how exactly you go about marketing.
Because that's probably the hardest thing for anyone, is to have people know about you and to actually be able to go out and talk about your own work.
Yeah.
You know, that's very difficult.
When Tracy, I met Tracy at Irma Bombeck, she was in her local newspaper. And now, like, she figured it out and she's in 450.
Yeah.
So,
how much does it cost?
It's $3.95 from the Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday, and that includes all of your meals. Like, it's in the, people say, oh, it's so expensive. No, it's not. No. The pre-conference is another $75, but for local writers in Windsor, we're waiving that fee because we just want them to be there to see this is what it's like to be out there. And then on Sunday, we have a post-conference with John B. Lee Poetry. And the reason, and it's usually poetry and screenplay writing, and the reason we do that is because those are 2 genres that are so different from writing fiction or memoirs or everything. They need their own time. And that's another $50, $75, I think it is, maybe $75.
Thank you so much, and good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Having been at the conference last year, I cannot speak highly enough of it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm glad. I can hardly wait to see you there.
Thank you. Now, just a reminder, the International Writers' Conference is being held in Windsor the first week in May, and it usually does take place the first week in May. Please visit their website for more information. Well, that's it for The Right Stuff. Thank you for joining me, and don't forget, if you're a writer, publisher, bookstore owner, or know any of those people, email me, Veronique@therightstuff.tv.